Crystal Palace have won the FA Cup. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yesterday was a monumental and historic moment for Crystal Palace. They won their first major silverware in the club's history at the expense of Manchester City, beating them 1-0 in the FA Cup final yesterday. Eze's first half goal was the difference maker, but there were heroics right the way across the pitch in every single one of those Crystal Palace players that were on the pitch and came on as substitutes yesterday. They were absolutely incredible as Manchester City, once again for the second year in a row, fell at the final hurdle in this competition. It was an incredible display from Palace, from their manager, from the coaches, everybody that was involved. It was a fantastic performance, a 90-minute battle of sheer resilience, defiance, and of course discipline. And when the final whistle went, you could just see how much it meant to those Crystal Palace supporters that had obviously made it to Wembley. It was absolutely brilliant scenes of absolute joyous and incredible and glorious emotion that poured out of each and every single one of those supporters. It was a brilliant sight to behold, an absolute amazing watch for neutrals especially. We'll get onto that a little later. But, of course, the bottom line is Palace are the worthy winners. They absolutely deserved it yesterday. Manchester City once again fall at the final hurdle, and Palace record their first major triumph in their history in terms of silverware. We're going to be talking about yesterday's game. We're going to be talking about where this leaves both clubs going forward. Before we get into all of that and much more, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you are new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you all to get involved in the comment section. Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling in the aftermath of yesterday's incredible finale of the FA Cup at Wembley Stadium, where Palace triumphed over Manchester City. Your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on the conversation will make for great and interesting reading down below. So please do use and abuse that comment section, people, and talk to me. Would love to hear what you have to say. And without further ado, we're going to get onto the conversation ourselves. We're talking Crystal Palace and the incredible victory that they performed yesterday. Look, everybody in a Crystal Palace shirt yesterday was absolutely brilliant. They absolutely deserved it. They were the worthy winners on the day, and they absolutely humbled Manchester City. Standout performances included the likes of Adam Wharton, who clearly wasn't match fit going into this game. There was a bit of a doubt about him before the game kicked off. He was absolutely brilliant, in my opinion. Richards at the back was brilliant. Munoz was absolutely outstanding up and down that right wing all game long. Ismail Assar was a threat going forward. Mateta was brilliant in his hold-up play and played a pivotal and instrumental part in the goal that Eze scored, of course. And, of course, Eze himself was brilliant. But the standout performers for me were Munoz, Eze, and, of course, Dean Henderson. Those were the three that stood out to me in particular. They were absolutely outstanding. Eze was the difference maker, of course, grabbing his goal just after the quarter-hour mark in what was a brilliant kind of counter-attack from Crystal Palace that they really did punish Manchester City for. And I've got to say that before we move on any further, I was wrong in my pre-match prediction. I obviously predicted City to win. I just thought that City, whenever these two teams meet, there was going to be a lot of goals. I did feel like City were very vulnerable to the counter-attack that Palace possess. But I just thought that City may have had the overall quality that shined through. And I was completely wrong, and fair play to Crystal Palace for proving me wrong. Because I have never been more glad, more happy to be wrong. And like I say, that goes down to the brilliant tactics and brilliant work of Oliver Glasner. That goes down to the absolute heroics of Eberechi Eze being the difference maker on the day in terms of his goal. He'll grab all the headlines, I'm sure. But Munoz down that right-hand side was absolutely insane. And, of course, Dean Henderson, who, of course, had a bit of controversy thrown in his direction in the game, which we'll get onto. But outside of that, the penalty save he performs, the number of saves he performed before and after that, he was on top form and he was absolutely brilliant throughout the entirety of the game. Fair play to him. But like I do say, there was a bit of controversy that we must address on this game. The first bit, there was actually two bits of controversy in my opinion. The first bit was the Henderson handball outside his penalty area. Now, in my opinion, the referees, the linesmen, the VAR, they followed the correct protocol. It wasn't called when it actually happened. And with the way that obviously the rules are there in terms of a clear goal scoring opportunity, the ball is going slightly away from goal. So I guess on that level, you can kind of see why there wasn't a red card for Dean Henderson. Why the VAR didn't call it back for a red card. They couldn't pull it back for a free kick because obviously that's not what VAR is there for. They only could call it back if it was a red card on Henderson, which they deemed it not to be because it didn't deny a clear goal scoring opportunity. There was also a Crystal Palace defender that was on the cover of the onrushing goalkeeper. But it is very clear to me that Dean Henderson does handball it outside the penalty area. So by the letter of the law, it is not a red card. But in my personal opinion, I think we definitely need to look at that law and change it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I wouldn't be surprised if in the near future they don't look at this law and potentially change it. Because the way he just absolutely swipes at the ball just to kind of knock it completely out of Erling Haaland's direction, it's a clear handball. It is a clear handball. And as well as that, they say it's denying of a clear goal scoring opportunity. Goals happen from there all the time. You know what I mean? Goals do happen from that kind of distance and direction all the time. So I don't know what a clear goal scoring opportunity really is. And in my opinion, it definitely needs to be looked at, this law. It's not the first time that clear goal scoring opportunity has been called into question for certain yellow and red card decisions. We obviously know about the infamous William Saliba one against Bournemouth, which in my opinion was correctly given. I do feel like the one that happened a day later between Liverpool and Chelsea was wrongfully given as a yellow card. That should have been a red as well. And I do feel like there was one in the Crystal Palace versus Tottenham game, I believe, where Mickey van der Ven was accused of a similar sort of thing, and he didn't get a red card for it when he probably should have done. So I do feel like this kind of clear goal scoring opportunity needs to be made a bit more transparent and cleared up a little bit. But Palace definitely did ride their luck a little bit. And then the second one there was the City penalty. Mitchell was deemed to have fouled the Manchester City player, who I don't remember who it was now. But in my opinion, on the replay, the faintest of touches is what Mitchell gets on the ball, and therefore I don't think it's enough to bring him down for a penalty. But Omar Mamouche missed the penalty anyway. Fantastic save from Henderson. So I guess justice was somewhat served in that regard. But yeah, overall, I did think that Palace arrived into this game with a brilliantly executed game plan. They rode their luck at times, but you're going to have to ride your luck at times, especially when you consider the kind of quality, talent and ability that Manchester City possess. Otherwise, it was a fantastic, resolute defensive display. They had a bit of a nervy start, Palace, but they slowly settled into the game more and more, and Eze's goal really settled them down brilliantly. And it was a very well executed goal as well. Like, everything about it. Like, suckered City in to press them, played a long ball over. Mateta was absolutely brilliant to hold the ball up the way that he did. Lovely bit of play, lovely bit of work to work Menez into space. And it's a fantastic cross, and Eze with a fantastic finish in what was an extremely well-worked goal. And like I say, from there on out, there was a couple of efforts from Crystal Palace. They thought they even got a second goal in the second half. Munoz, with an absolutely terrific performance, would have capped it off brilliantly with a goal had it not been for Ismail Assar just being offside in the build-up to that second goal, correctly chalked off by VAR. But Palace were excellent. Palace were excellent in terms of threatening to go forward at times. And then, of course, defensively, I know, like I say, they did ride their luck a little bit, but defensively, they were absolutely solid as a rock. And I was more impressed by the fact that Oliver Glasner learned from his previous mistakes. A few weeks ago, these two teams battled it out to a 5-2 defeat to Crystal Palace. Man City won on that day, but Palace did find themselves at one point 2-0 up in the first half, and they kept on attacking, and they were so open that I'm so glad and I'm so happy that Palace really did learn from their previous mistakes. They learned from that, and they absolutely combated it beautifully to, of course, win when it mattered more. But as good as what Palace were, I have to say that City were poor. Now, that's partly down to how Palace played, admittedly. But I was just thinking like there was a lack of clinical edge about City. I was thinking there was a lack of decisiveness. They were second-guessing themselves. I just thought overall City were just very lacklustre in their approach play. They had a few attempts on goal. Of course they did. They're Manchester City. They're going to have a few attempts on goal. But in terms of like an urgency, is it dynamism? Dynamism? I think that's the word I'm looking for there. There was just a lack of it, in my opinion, and it just did not... It was just a typical sort of performance that we've seen from City this season. It was a clear display of their frailties, their problems, their issues, their insecurities that have really shined through this season, come to the forefront yet again, but on a bigger stage, a bigger platform, and they were rightly beaten on the night, and they rightly and correctly, in my opinion, leave this season trophyless, which, after spending 200 million in the January transfer window, and of course having dropped a lot of money previously to pump into this squad that they now currently possess, I think is the right call. Football was the real winner on the day, but as for as good as what Palace was, City were poor. And I think the moment for me that sort of encapsulated it all. Why did Erling Haaland not take the penalty? Why did Erling Haaland not take the penalty? Now, I know he doesn't exactly have the best of penalty records in recent times. I think the last penalty he actually took, he missed. But even so, to do it in an FA Cup final, to give it to your teammate in an FA Cup final, when you are the natural penalty taker, that, to me, is insane. That, to me, is absolutely insane to me. The fact that you didn't have seemingly the guts to do it yourself, to take responsibility, to score the penalty that would have got you back on level terms and potentially gone on to win the game, depending on how the game would have planned out from there. I'm baffled by Haaland's decision there. I really, really am. I really, really am. And I can't fathom as to why that would happen. He had a poor game anyway, Haaland, like most of City players did. But it was just crazy to me that Haaland wasn't the one to take the penalty. He in fact gave it to Marmoush, a move that I don't think anybody really expected, let alone the Palace goalkeeper. and yet Marmoush missed. And I think Guardiola went on in the post-match press conference to maybe say maybe the thought of taking the penalty at Wembley might have been too much for him. You never know. He's a human being. He doesn't exactly strike me as a player that lacks confidence, Erling Haaland, but there is certainly something up with him in this season and in recent weeks and months. I know obviously he has been injured recently, so I'm not sure if it's a culmination of all of those things, but it just struck me as a little odd that Erling Haaland did not take the penalty that would have saw City get back on level terms at that particular moment. But fair play to Dean Henderson. Like I say, his heroics were absolutely insane. Palace's heroics overall were insane. Like I say, they did ride their luck at times, and I do think that they need to look at that law that is in place about clear goal scoring opportunities and fouls and handballs of that kind of nature. I do think they need to probably look at that, and they may look into it now that obviously something like that has occurred. But there's no doubt about it. Football won on the day. Crystal Palace were victorious. They triumphed over Manchester City in the FA Cup final by a 0-0. Eze's goal on the day was a difference maker. And like I say, if you haven't already seen the photos and the videos of Crystal Palace fans and supporters celebrating in Wembley yesterday, go back and do it. It was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful to watch. Glorious scenes of genuine and true emotion outpouring from the Crystal Palace faithful there. And I've got to say this as well, just to end on this. As a Liverpool fan and as a member of the so-called traditional top six, we sometimes take these moments for granted, unless you're Tottenham Hotspur, of course. They don't really count as being top six because they don't win anything. Although they might win on Wednesday, who knows. But the main five, shall we say, the Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Chelseas, they sometimes take these moments for granted because we're used to winning. We're used to obviously seeing our teams triumph in some way, shape or form in these kinds of competitions. When you see a Newcastle win the Carabao Cup like they did this year, when you see a Crystal Palace win the FA Cup like they did yesterday, it really should serve as a bit of a reality check, in my opinion, that football is bigger than just the traditional top five. And it means a lot to everybody and anybody, and those fans especially that are outside the top five, that don't have these moments on a regular basis and a regular occurrence like what the traditional top five do, should serve as it should just serve to me as an incredible moment in football. It should just serve to me as a bit of a reflection, especially on fans of the traditional top five, that football is so much bigger than just them. And what we saw yesterday was a beautiful scene from Crystal Palace. They truly deserved it. Football was the real winner. Crystal Palace were the real winners. Football was also a winner on the day. And I'm very, very happy to see Crystal Palace not only win this competition, but it's going to be interesting to see how they do in Europe next season. They've, of course, qualified for the Europa League as well. Fantastic achievement by Oliver Glasner, Crystal Palace, and everybody associated with Crystal Palace Football Club. What a historic, history-making moment, a monumental one at that, and fair play to every single person involved. Look, those are the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Crystal Palace's victory and triumph yesterday in the FA Cup final over Manchester City? Let me know what you guys thought about the game, the controversial moments, but overall the joyous scenes of glorious emotion. Leave all of that kind of stuff down below in the comment section, guys. We'd love to hear from you all. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. By the way, thank you all so much. Just past 800 subs. I know it doesn't seem like a lot in today's YouTube game, but it's like 800 odd more than what I was anticipating when I first started this. So I can't thank you enough, guys. You guys are absolutely awesome. I genuinely do appreciate it, and it will never be taken for granted. I can't thank you guys enough. You guys are absolutely awesome. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you and speak with you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. Speak to you all again very, very soon.